Much less attention has been paid to a series of crucial court cases in which the Obama administration has fought to continue some of the most controversial practices of the Bush era.
Because there is no force in the world more powerful than the example of America.
I think people who think this is going to be a night and day difference between administrations are in for a rather upsetting reality.
Down Guantanamo, is mission accomplished? I would say absolutely not. There's 18,000 other men being held in military prisons around the world, and they have got no notion of due process, and they need to be reunited with the law.
And that is why I can stand here tonight and say without exception or equivocation that the United States of America does not torture.
There needs to be a more dramatic rejection. You know, some of those words also came out of the mouth of President Bush.
This government does not torture people.
You know, an executive order is great, you know, but these concepts now are, you know, embedded in the architecture of our laws, and they're not easily dislodged.
One example of that is extraordinary rendition, the U.S. practice of picking up terror suspects anywhere in the world and transporting them to third countries for interrogation. Obama's executive order insisted the U.S. would not transfer individuals to other nations to face torture. But on the very same day that was signed, administration officials made it clear that the rendition program would continue for the time being. Since then, Obama's Department of Justice has fought to dismiss lawsuits brought by alleged victims of rendition, arguing that they might expose state secrets and threaten national security.
I'm quite disturbed to see that the Obama administration hasn't been able to free itself of that addiction to, government secrecy in the state secrets cases that have come up, where they've taken the same position that the Bush administration did.
The Obama administration, when given the opportunity to tell the court that it was rethinking its position on Bagram and that it wanted a chance to reconsider it, said, no, we don't need a chance. It looks to me so far like, we have Obama's Guantanamo at Bagram and we have Obama's Iraq and Afghanistan.
That is certainly not what Obama campaigned on, nor is it a spin that the administration would like to see stick. Obama promised to run the most transparent White House in history. Time to put that to the test. The Justice Department official who briefed me said that the U.S. would continue to invoke state secrets on rendition and any other issue it thinks necessary in the name of national security. On the rights of prisoners at Bagram to legal process, I was told simply that the new administration agrees with the old. In the Bush years, the government was slammed for denying terrorism suspects habeas corpus rights, the ability to challenge one's detention. Just 7 months ago, the case against the Bush position was put passionately by this former constitutional law professor.
So the point is, so the reason that you have this principle is not to be soft on terrorism, it's because that's who we are. That's what we're protecting. Don't mock the Constitution. Don't make fun of it.
Political decisions taken since have made a mockery of those beautiful words. In March, a federal district court judge sided with candidate Obama, granting habeas corpus rights to 3 Bagram prisoners. President Obama's administration continues to fight that ruling, moving quickly to file an appeal. But beneath all these specific legal questions is a much bigger one. Is the United States engaged in a global war on terror, as the Bush administration insisted? Once you accept the legal concept of a global battlefield, then the U.S. can detain people anywhere and apply the rules of war, like indefinite detention, rather than those of criminal justice, like due process. The Obama White House seems keen to distance itself from the warlike rhetoric of the Bush years. But if that concept of a global battlefield still underpins U.S. policy, then changing the words won't change the reality.
You cannot argue that there is a global war on terror that justifies the indefinite detention of anyone, anywhere in the world. There's no difference between that and a dictatorship.
But we begin tonight with a tale of two speeches, both from the same man, both from President Obama. One speech that could have been billed as a ballad to the Constitution, a proclamation of American values, a repudiation of the lawless behavior of the last presidential administration, and another speech announcing a radical new claim of presidential power that is not afforded by the Constitution and that has never been attempted in American history, even by George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. Remarkably, President Obama today made both of those speeches simultaneously. President Obama today proposed something new, something called prolonged detention. Doesn't sound that bad, right? Prolonged detention. Did you ever see the movie Minority Report? It was based on a Philip K. Dick short story. Came out in 2002. It starred Tom Cruise, remember? He played a police officer in something called the Department of Pre-Crime. Pre-crime is where people are arrested and incarcerated to prevent crimes that they have not yet committed.
Mr. Marks, by mandate of the District of Columbia Pre-Crime Division, I'm placing you under arrest for the future murder of Sarah Marks and Donald Dumanos to take place today, April 22nd, at 0800 hours, 4 minutes. No, I didn't do anything.
You didn't do anything, but you're gonna. Future murder. Creepy, right? Putting somebody in jail not for what they've done, but for what you're very sure they're going to do?
There may be a number of people who cannot be prosecuted for past crimes. In some cases because evidence may be tainted, but who nonetheless pose a threat to the security of the United States.
We're not prosecuting them for past crimes, but we need to keep them in prison because of our expectation of their future crimes. We will incarcerate people preventively. Preventive incarceration. Indefinite detention without trial. That's what this is. That's what President Obama proposed today, if you strip away the euphemisms. One civil liberties advocate told the New York Times today, quote, "We've known this was on the horizon for many years, but we were able to hold it off with George Bush. The idea that we might find ourselves fighting with the Obama administration over these powers is really stunning." And it is stunning, particularly to hear President Obama claim the power to keep people in prison indefinitely with no charges against them, no conviction, no sentence, just imprisonment. It's particularly stunning to hear him make that claim in the middle of a speech that was all about the rule of law.
But we must do so with an abiding confidence in the rule of law. Find the rule of law with the rule of law.
How can a president speak the kind of poetry that President Obama does about the rule of law and call for the power to indefinitely, preventively imprison people because they might commit crimes in the future? How can those two things coexist in the same man, even in the same speech? Well, that brings us to the self-consciously awkward, embarrassing part of this speech today. After condemning the Bush administration for what he called their ad hoc legal strategy, for trying to make things seem legal that patently weren't, this is what President Obama proposed.
My administration has begun to reshape the standards that apply. We must have clear, defensible, and lawful standards for those who fall into this category. We must have a thorough process of periodic review so that any prolonged detention is carefully evaluated and justified. Our goal is to construct a legitimate legal framework for the remaining Guantanamo detainees that cannot be transferred. Our goal is not to avoid a legitimate legal framework. In our constitutional system, prolonged detention should not be the decision of any one man. In our constitutional system, prolonged detention should not be the decision of any one man. In our constitutional system, prolonged detention should not be the decision of any one man. If and when we determine that the United States must hold individuals to keep them from carrying out an act of war, we will do so within a system that involves judicial and congressional oversight. oversight.